Okay, today your focus is going to be exactly on this. Week 3, Activity 6, Compulsory Draft of Assignment. You should have all of your notes in the scaffold, nicely presented. You should have them in point form, and you should have some reflections on your note taking, and you should have your bibliography done, and you should have your images done. So if you haven't got all of those things, then go back to scaffold, go back to research taking, and take more notes. You should have 2 to 3 minutes of good, solid information, maximum 3.5 minutes. And you're going to actually start on the full draft of the assignment. So I'm going to open up Week 3, Activity 6. You should have notes from Introduction to World War I, including causes, the summary of the battle, dates, maps, key events. Identify the outcomes for the Allied force and Central Powers, victory, casualties, deaths, land gained or lost. And you should have how did the battle event contribute to the overall outcome of the entire war. So all of those things are the focus of your assignment. Now I'm just going to open up this little checklist to be a little patient. Okay, now this is really a checklist when you finished your draft, and when you finish your draft you go, okay, it's your check first. Check spellings, check if there's something that's underlined in your speech, and you might go, okay, is that American spelling or is that Australian spelling? What's the problem? Punctuation. Are there little sections of your sentence underlined? Because Word will pick up some of the problems with your grammar and punctuation. Sentence structures. Do you have a mix of simple short sentences? And do you have longer sentences that provide complexity so that people can have a variety of sentences to listen to? Do you have peel paragraph? Have you checked that there's a specific point for each paragraph? Do you have appropriate vocab choices? I'm not looking for basic vocab, particularly for A's. I'm looking for terminology being used in the appropriate way so that people can understand what you're getting across, and you're using the best words concisely. Are you using cohesion, linking words and phrases? Have you got relevant images? Are your diagrams, maps and graphs referenced and labelled? Do you have in-text referencing? So quotes, statistics, and final reference lists. Have you developed a reference list that is formatted correctly and organised alphabetically, not just a list of URLs? Dates accessed in them and names of the authors as appropriate. And footer to show your name and class. Okay, this is your research. Have you used detailed information? Have you used explanations and elaborations? Have you used ADAM to evaluate sources of information? Of course, ADAM is actually standing for author, so you could make a comment on the author in the right-hand side of your scaffold. The date that it was written, is it a primary source or is it a secondary source? Was it written or taken a photo of at the time of the event, or is it an afterthought? Is it a secondary source? Audience, who was the audience, or who was the item produced for? Is it just general public? Is it students? Is it teachers? Is it a newspaper? And motive, why was it written or produced? And those are the things that you could write in your right-hand column of your scaffold. At the bottom of this checklist on my copy, I've put up an idea of what an A student would be doing with these notes. Okay, this is your scaffold. This is your normal heading notes, my thinking, source 1. Usually the source goes in this space. Then you're putting your notes in here. I've only just started. I'd probably write more notes than that. Then up here, you were actually told to use Adam to evaluate sources of information. Now, I hadn't actually mentioned Adam. I'd been talking about, where you're going to use it in the speech. Is it a primary or secondary source, etc.? Adam is author. Date. So author, who wrote it. Date, when it was written. Audience, who are the people that are going to read it, and M for motive. M for motive, what is the purpose of it? And I've just very quickly, by looking at the website, it's written by Matt Brosnan. It actually says that. In your bibliography, you should actually be mentioning Matt Brosnan, and organised by surname B. He's a government representative of British history. He may be slated towards the UK. When did he write it? 11th of June 2018. It actually is stated on the site. It's a secondary source. It's a reflection long after the event. Audience, people who visit the Imperial War Museum, because that's who he's writing for, that's the site that it is. And who would be visiting the Imperial War Museum and that's website, and that's people interested in World War I and World War II. Motive, the purpose is to inform people and to provide links to other information. And a little comment about when I'm going to use this. This information will be useful to begin my discussion on the Somme. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how you could be doing that scaffold. That is really an A student is going to do all of that. Then we are continuing to work on our writing the draft. Have you got evidence and examples? Have you used both primary and secondary sources, particularly with your images? The images are most likely going to be primary. Check all information is relevant and accurate. Do you have an introduction that clearly introduces the war, state its importance in our world history? Do you have a conclusion? Hopefully not straight after the introduction, but a summary of overall perception of this battle. Do you have causes of World War I, building up and immediate, including a world map showing countries involved, alliances, etc., locations? Location and description of your specific battle, located on a map. Good place to use primary sources, extracts from speeches, letters. Description of battle and how this influenced the outcome of the war. How did it change Australia? Particularly Gallipoli should have a significant change for Australia. And are you meeting task requirements, particularly that time? Some of you are going to have trouble with the time. And you would sign it, this form. Ideally, you might have optional parent check if your parents are not too busy or stressed. Teacher check, or you might have a student check. Now, you guys are going to be working pretty independently because I'm actually going to teach Year 11 class as well during your lesson. I'm actually probably going to go into teams about, I've got to think what time. No. Where did it go? Where did it disappear? No, I don't really want that. Don't want that. Don't want that at the moment.